I've earned 30 plus certifications, and I'm here to guide you to success on your exam. Welcome to the ultimate SC-300 exam masterclass. Are you ready to crack the SC-300 exam in one go? You're in the right place. In this session, we'll arm you with powerful insights and hand-picked questions that can make all the difference in your exam performance. We've scanned the web using intelligent crawlers to gather the most critical and high-impact questions, all compiled into one powerful PDF resource. You can download it from the link in the description. Not only will we explore these must-practice questions, but we'll also share real exam experiences and pro tips to give you that competitive edge. Let's dive into the key questions that could shape your success. Question 1. You need to configure the MFA settings for users who connect from the Boston office. The solution must meet the authentication requirements and the access requirements. What should you include in the configuration? A. Named locations that have a private IP address range. B. Named locations that have a public IP address range. C. Trusted IPs that have a public IP address range. D. Trusted IPs that have a private IP address range. Correct answer B. Named locations that have a public IP address range. Explanation. Public IP address ranges are required for identifying external named locations. This allows MFA policies to evaluate access based on the source network. Question 2. You need to resolve the issue of the sales department users. What should you configure for the Azure AD tenant? A. The device settings. B. The access reviews settings. C. The user settings. D. Security defaults. Correct answer A. The device settings. Explanation. Device settings control how users can register their devices with Azure AD. This helps in managing and securing organizational devices. Question 3. You need to meet the authentication requirements for leaked credentials. What should you do? A. Enable password hash synchronization in Azure AD Connect. B. Configure Azure AD password protection. C. Configure an authentication method policy in Azure AD. D. Enable federation with Ping Federate in Azure AD Connect. Correct answer A. Enable password hash synchronization in Azure AD Connect. Explanation. Password hash sync enables Azure AD to detect leaked credentials. It allows checking user credentials against Microsoft's breach database. Question 4. You have a Microsoft Entra tenant that uses Microsoft Entra ID Premium licenses. You plan to configure a terms of use too for the tenant. You need to upload the to document. Which format should you use for the document? A. HTML. B. RTF. C. PDF. D. Docs. Correct answer C. PDF. Explanation. Azure AD Terms of Use only supports PDF format. This ensures the document is standardized and not editable by end users. Question 5. You have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You need to ensure that users are prompted to accept a custom Terms of Use (TOU) agreement when they sign into the subscription. What should you configure? A. An access package. B. A conditional access policy. C. A lifecycle workflow. D. An authentication method. Correct answer B. A conditional access policy. Explanation. Conditional access policies can enforce terms of use during sign-in. This ensures users must accept the agreement before accessing services. Question 6. You have an Azure subscription, a Google Cloud Platform (GCP) account, and an Amazon Web Services (AWS) account. You need to recommend a solution to assess the risks associated with privilege assignments across all the platforms. The solution must minimize administrative effort. What should you include in the recommendation? A. Microsoft Sentinel. B. Microsoft Entra ID Protection. C. Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. D. Microsoft Entra Permissions Management. Correct answer D. Microsoft Entra Permissions Management. Explanation: Microsoft Entra Permissions Management provides cross-cloud visibility and least privilege recommendations. It minimizes risk and administrative overhead. Question 7. You have a Microsoft Entra tenant. You need to configure continuous access evaluation for app sign-ins and assign the configuration to users that are assigned the application administrator role. What should you configure? A. A sign-in risk policy. B. An access review. C. A conditional access policy. D. The admin consent settings. Correct answer, C. A conditional access policy. Explanation: Conditional access policies are used to enable continuous access evaluation. This helps maintain session security for critical roles. Question 8. You have a Microsoft 365 tenant. The sign-ins activity report shows that an external contractor signed into the Exchange Admin Center. You need to review access to the Exchange Admin Center at the end of each month and block sign-ins if required. What should you create? A. An access package that targets users outside your directory. B. An access package that targets users in your directory. C. A group-based access review that targets guest users. D. An application-based access review that targets guest users. Correct answer, C. A group-based access review that targets guest users. Explanation: Group-based access reviews allow you to evaluate guest access periodically. This helps ensure least privilege access is maintained. Question 9. You have an Azure subscription. You need to use Microsoft Entra Permissions Management to automatically monitor permissions and create and implement right-size roles. The solution must follow the principle of least privilege. Which roles should you assign to the service principle of permissions management? A. User Access Administrator. B. Contributor. C. Reader. D. Owner. Correct answer A. User Access Administrator. Explanation: The User Access Administrator role allows managing role assignments. This is required for permissions management to make access adjustments. Question 10. You have 3 Azure subscriptions that are linked to a single Microsoft Entra tenant. You need to evaluate and remediate the risks associated with highly privileged accounts. The solution must minimize administrative effort. What should you use? A. Global Secure Access. B. Privileged Identity Management (PIM). C. Microsoft Entra Permissions Management. D. Microsoft Entra Verified ID. Answer B. Privileged Identity Management (PIM). Explanation: PIM helps manage and monitor privileged roles. It enables just-in-time access and reduces persistent high-level permissions. Question 11. You have an Azure AD tenant. You plan to implement Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM). Which roles can you manage by using PIM? A. Global Administrator only. B. Global Administrator and Security Administrator only. C. Global Administrator, Security Administrator, and Security Contributor only. D. Global Administrator and Security Administrator only. Correct answer D. Global Administrator and Security Administrator only. Explanation: PIM supports management of directory roles like Global Administrator and Security Administrator. These roles can be made eligible for just-in-time access. Question 12. You have a Microsoft Exchange organization that uses an SMTP address space of contoso.com. Several users use their contoso.com email address for self-service sign-up to Azure Active Directory, Azure AD. You gain global administrator privileges to the Azure AD tenant that contains the self-signed users. You need to prevent the users from creating user accounts in the contoso.com Azure AD tenant for self-service sign-up to Microsoft 365 services. Which PowerShell command should you run? A. Set-sole company settings. B. Set-sole domain federation settings. C. Update sole federated domain. D. Set-sole domain. Correct answer A. Set-sole company settings. Explanation. Set-sole company settings allows you to disable self-service sign-up for users. This helps prevent unauthorized tenant creation. Question 13. You have 2,500 users who are assigned Microsoft Office 365 Enterprise E3 licenses. The licenses are assigned to individual users. From the groups displayed in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center, you assign Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 licenses to the users. You need to remove the Office 365 Enterprise E3 licenses from the users by using the least amount of administrative effort. What should you use? A. The Identity Governance blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. B. The Set Azure Ad User Command. C. The Licenses blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. D. The Set Windows Product Key Command. Correct answer, C. The Licenses blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. Explanation. The Licenses blade provides bulk management for user licenses. It allows you to remove existing licenses efficiently. Question 14. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named contoso.com. You plan to bulk invite Azure AD business-to-business, B2B, collaboration users. Which two parameters must you include when you create the bulk invite? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. A. Email address. B. Redirection URL. C. Username. D. Shared key. E. Password. Correct answer A and B. Email address. Redirection URL. Explanation. Bulk invitations require the user's email and a redirection URL. The URL is used for post-invite navigation after acceptance. Question 15. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named contoso.com that contains an Azure AD enterprise application named App1. A contractor uses the credentials of email protected. You need to ensure that you can provide the contractor with access to App1. The contractor must be able to authenticate as email protected. What should you do? A. Run the new AD user command. B. Configure the external collaboration settings. C. Add a WS-Fed identity provider. D. Create a guest user account in contoso.com. Correct answer D. Create a guest user account in contoso.com. Explanation. Guest accounts allow external users to access enterprise apps. This is the standard approach for B2B access in Azure AD. Question 16. Your network contains an Active Directory forest named contoso.com that is linked to an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named contoso.com using Azure AD Connect. You need to prevent the synchronization of users who have the extension attribute 15 attribute set to NoSync. What should you do in Azure AD Connect? A. Create an inbound synchronization rule for the Windows Azure Active Directory connector. B. Configure a full import run profile. C. Create an inbound synchronization rule for the Active Directory Domain Services connector. D. Configure an export run profile. Correct answer, C. Create an inbound synchronization rule for the Active Directory Domain Services connector. Explanation. Inbound sync rules on the ADDS connector define filtering logic. You can exclude users based on extension attributes. Question 17. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named contoso.com. You need to ensure that Azure AD external identities pricing is based on monthly active users, MAU. What should you configure? A user flow. B. The terms of use. C. A link subscription. D. An access review. Correct answer, C. A linked subscription. Explanation. To switch to MAU-based billing, the tenant must be linked to an Azure subscription. This enables flexible identity billing. Question 18. You have 2,500 users who are assigned Microsoft Office 365 Enterprise E3 licenses. The licenses are assigned to individual users. From the groups blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center, you assign Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 licenses to the users. You need to remove the Office 365 Enterprise E3 licenses from the users by using the least amount of administrative effort. What should you use? A. The administrative units blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. B. The set Azure Ad User Complete. C. The groups blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. D. The set sole user license complete. Correct answer D. The set sole user license complete. Explanation. Set sole user license lets you remove licenses via PowerShell. It allows bulk updates, reducing manual admin work. Question 19. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant. You need to bulk create 25 new user accounts by uploading a template file. Which properties are required in the template file? A. Display name, identity issuer, usage location, and user type. B. Account enabled, given name, surname, and user principal name. C. Account enabled, display name, user principal name, and password profile. D. Account enabled, password profile, usage location, and user principal name. Correct answer, C. Account enabled, display name, user principal name, and password profile. Explanation. The required properties ensure the account is active and has proper credentials. Display name and password profile are mandatory fields. Question 20. Your network contains an on-premises Active Directory domain that syncs to an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant. Users sign into computers that run Windows 10 and are joined to the domain. You plan to implement Azure AD Seamless Single Sign-On, Azure AD Seamless SSO. You need to configure the Windows 10 computers to support Azure AD Seamless SSO. What should you do? A. Configure sign-in options from the Settings app. B. Enable Enterprise State Roaming. C. Modify the Intranet Zone settings. D. Install the Azure AD Connect Authentication agent. Correct answer, C. Modify the Intranet Zone settings. Explanation. Seamless SSO requires browsers to trust the AD sign-in URL. Adding the URL to the intranet zone allows automatic Kerberos authentication. Question 21. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant that contains a user named User1. You need to ensure that User1 can create new catalogs and add resources to the catalogs they own. What should you do? A. From the Roles and Administrators blade, modify the group's administrator role. B. From the Roles and Administrators blade, modify the Service Support Administrator role. C. From the Identity Governance blade, modify the Entitlement Management settings. D. From the Identity Governance blade, modify the roles and administrators for the general catalog. Correct answer, C. From the Identity Governance blade, modify the Entitlement Management settings. Explanation. Entitlement management settings and identity governance control who can manage catalogs. Granting permissions here enables catalog creation. Question 22. Your network contains an on-premises Active Directory domain that syncs to an Azure Active Directory Azure AD tenant. Users sign into computers that run Windows 10 and are joined to the domain. You plan to implement Azure AD Seamless Single Sign-On SSO. You need to configure the Windows 10 computers to support Azure AD Seamless SSO. What should you do? A. Configure sign-in options from the Settings app. B. Enable Enterprise State Roaming. C. Modify the local intranet zone settings. D. Install the Azure AD Connect Authentication agent. Correct answer, C. Modify the local intranet zone settings. Explanation. To support seamless SSO, browsers must treat the Azure AD sign-in URL as intranet. This allows automatic sign-in using Kerberos. Question 23. You have an Azure AD tenant that contains a user named User1. User1 needs to manage license assignments and reset user passwords. Which roles should you assign to User1? A. Helpdesk Administrator. B. Billing Administrator. C. License Administrator. D. User Administrator. Correct answer D. User Administrator. Explanation. The User Administrator role allows assigning licenses and resetting passwords. It provides broader user management than Helpdesk or License Admin. Question 24. You have an Azure AD tenant that contains a user named Admin1. You need to ensure that Admin1 can perform only the following tasks: create and manage service requests, read and configure service health, create and manage support tickets. What should you do? A. Create an administrative unit and add Admin1. B. Enable Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM) for Admin1. C. Assign Admin1 the Helpdesk Administrator role. D. Create a custom role and assign the role to Admin1. Correct answer D. Create a custom role and assign the role to Admin1. Explanation. Creating a custom role allows you to define specific permissions. This ensures Admin1 can perform only the required support-related tasks. Question 25. Your company recently implemented Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM). While you review the roles in PIM, you discover that all 15 IT users have permanent security administrator rights. You need to ensure that IT users only have access to the security administrator role when required. What should you configure for the security administrator role assignment? A. Expire eligible assignments after from the role settings details. B. Expire active assignments after from the role settings details. C. Assignment type to active. D. Assignment type to eligible. Correct answer D. Assignment type to eligible. Explanation. Eligible assignments require users to activate the role when needed. This supports just-in-time access and improves security. Question 26. You have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that uses Microsoft Defender for cloud apps. You need to identify which users access Facebook from their devices and browsers. What should you do first? A. Create a conditional access policy. B. Create a Defender for Cloud Apps access policy. C. Create an app configuration policy in Microsoft Endpoint Manager. D. From the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps portal, unsanction Facebook. Correct answer D. From the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps portal, unsanction Facebook. Explanation. Unsanctioning Facebook classifies it as risky in cloud discovery. This allows you to track usage and enforce access policies. Question 27. You have an Azure subscription that uses Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM). You need to identify users that are eligible for the Cloud Application Administrator role. Which blade in the Privileged Identity Management settings should you use? A. Azure Resources. B. Privileged Access Groups. C. Review Access. D. Azure AD Roles. Correct answer D. Azure AD Roles. Explanation. Azure AD Roles Blade and PIM shows role assignments. You can view which users are eligible for the Cloud Application Administrator role. Question 28. You have an Azure AD Premium P2 tenant. You create a log analytics workspace. You need to ensure that you can view Azure AD audit log information using Azure Monitor. What should you do first? A. Modify the diagnostic settings for Azure AD. B. Run the update.mg organization complete. C. Run the update.mg domain complete. D. Create an Azure AD workbook. Correct answer A. Modify the diagnostic settings for Azure AD. Explanation. Diagnostic settings allow streaming Azure AD logs to log analytics. This integration enables visualization and analysis in Azure Monitor. Question 29. You have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that contains a user named User1. User1 is eligible for the Application Administrator role. User1 needs to configure a new connector group for an application proxy. What should you use to activate the role for User1? A. The Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps Portal. B. The Microsoft 365 Admin Center. C. The Azure Active Directory Admin Center. D. The Microsoft 365 Defender Portal. Correct answer, C. The Azure Active Directory Admin Center. Explanation. The Azure AD Admin Center is used to activate PIM-eligible roles. It enables User1 to access application proxy configuration. Question 30. You have an Azure subscription that contains a registered app named App1. You need to review the sign-in activity for App1. The solution must identify the number of failed sign-ins, identify the success rate of sign-ins, minimize administrative effort. What should you use? A. Sign-in logs. B. Access reviews. C. Audit logs. D. Usage and insights. Correct answer D. Usage and insights. Explanation. Usage and insights provides a high-level view of app usage. It includes sign-in success rates and failures with minimal configuration. Please revise full PDF 2 to 3 times for 100% success. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.